My name is Claudia Cuba, and I am an advocate here at the Family Resource Center. Thank you so much for coming into this workshop. We're going to talk a little bit about motivation and understanding the systems that drive our brain to feel motivated. This is a quote that I like by Maya Angelou. Nothing will work unless you do. I did a little bit of research on this topic, and I'm happy to share what I learned with you guys here today. The reason I was interested, I needed to find ways to keep my daughter motivated in school. We rely on motivation systems to gain knowledge and progress our abilities and make good choices for ourselves. And internal motivation plays a key role in overcoming setbacks. So this is a very interesting topic to me, and there's so much information out there. I tried to not make it too lengthy and direct it towards our children. Have you guys ever thought about why some people are motivated to achieve and perform more productively in society? Does anybody want to share how you keep yourself motivated, or how you keep your children, or when you want to motivate a friend? What are some things that you like to do that work for you?
I like to journal the things that I need to get done. And then as I get them done, I check it off so I don't forget anything.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a good tactic. Definitely, it helps you see your progress. And we've got a direct message. Yeah, Google Calendar, using calendars, using things to keep track of what you need to do, what's coming up that's important. Okay. So we're going to start with some basic definitions. As most of us know, motivation is the desire to initiate and maintain a particular behavior. It's the energy that drives us to do something. Approach motivation is the key to most forms of learning. Anticipating a reward triggers a dopamine surge, which also increases communication between the brain region that releases dopamine and the regions responsible for memory and emotion. When we have a strong emotion associated with a memory, our brain is programmed to prefer experiences which have previously led to a reward, and is able to predict which activities are likely to trigger a reward again. So approach motivation, you're approaching a reward. It involves a release of a neurochemical that tells us something is about to happen that we should enjoy. On the other hand, we have avoidance motivation. Avoidance motivation is associated with feelings of fear and disgust. It involves the production of stress hormones, which release the fight, flight, or freeze reaction. As you guys may have noticed with your children, fear and disgust develop long before language. Babies are able to express those. So while avoidance is important for survival, this response can inhibit higher learning by focusing the brain's activity on immediate action instead of planning to attain long goals or resisting impulses. So once again, avoidance motivation has to do with avoiding a negative consequences, it directs us away from a threat, and it releases a neurochemical that triggers the fight or flight response. So although most organisms approach reward and avoid threats, we may also be motivated by the inherent pleasure and satisfaction that comes from certain activities. Both approach and avoidance motivation are influenced by intrinsic, which is internal drivers, and extrinsic, which were external feedback. Intrinsic motivation involves genuine joy and satisfaction. You are completing a task for its internal gratification. Extrinsic motivation is motivation that is driven by an external reward or consequence. And a well-established motivation system consists of internal drivers supported by positive feedback. If you take a look at this graph, intrinsic drivers can be interest, preferences, instincts that can lead us to either approach a reward or avoid a threat. And a positive feedback example would be strong social support, responsive adults in the life of your children, and a threat, a genuine threat could be stressful life circumstances or substance abuse addiction behaviors. I want to show you this video that I found. It's from TED, and it's going to explain a little bit more about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation.
We're anesthesiologists, surgeons, emergency medicine physicians.
You've always aspired to be a professional artist. At last, this dream may become a reality, and you're creating a portfolio to submit to art programs. But as the application deadline looms, you suddenly find yourself unmotivated and avoiding the canvas altogether. Why does motivation seem so fickle? And what even is it in the first place? Psychologists define motivation as the desire or impetus to initiate and maintain a particular behavior. In other words, it's the energy that drives you to do. That feel right in the moment, or that you find meaningful, interesting, or satisfying, are driven by intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation, on the other hand, refers to pursuing a task as a means to an end. While few would consider going to the dentist an enjoyable activity, you're often motivated by the outcome of having clean, healthy teeth. Other examples of extrinsic motivation include completing a task to receive some sort of reward, whether it's praise, power, or money. Notably, these rewards tend to come later, like receiving a bonus at the end of a quarter or winning a competition after months of training. While extrinsic rewards like getting paid may seem appealing, their effectiveness can be surprisingly short-lived. For example, a 2017 study found that those who were highly focused on the outcomes of their New Year's resolutions, or were driven by extrinsic motivation, weren't the most likely to stick to them. What did predict persistence, however, was how much a person enjoyed pursuing their goals. In other words, you're more likely to maintain an exercise routine if you take classes you enjoy, rather than just those that build your biceps. Years of psychology research have shown that high levels of intrinsic motivation for school, a job, or an exercise class are more likely to keep you engaged in the long run. Day-to-day actions, though, are rarely either exclusively intrinsically or extrinsically motivated. Studying for a history exam, for example, can be intrinsically motivated if you're curious about the culture of ancient Egypt, but extrinsic motivators may also be at play as you aim to get a good grade or feel pressure from family members to do well in school. But having multiple motivators isn't always better. One study of military cadets found that those who were driven both by intrinsic motivators like self-improvement and extrinsic motivators like the outcome of getting a good job were overall less motivated than cadets driven by just one of these factors. As a result, these cadets performed worse and were less likely to graduate. Psychologists call this phenomenon the over-justification effect. The idea that additional extrinsic motivators can actually muddy the waters when you already have the intrinsic drive to do something. But this is only a problem if you already find a task motivating. When you're faced with an activity you find tedious or uninteresting, adding extrinsic rewards can be beneficial. In this way, extrinsic motivators can provide sufficient justification. While you may never enjoy doing the laundry, it may feel less daunting if you get praise from a loved one, or even promise yourself that you'll watch your favorite TV show when you're done folding. Motivation is complicated, and sometimes, no matter how passionate you are about a goal or hobby, finding the motivation to actually do it can be difficult. But there are things you can do to increase your drive, even when it feels impossible. Focus on building intrinsic motivation by making the task more fun in the moment. Asking a friend to join you or simply putting on your favorite playlist can give you the boost to get started and stick with your goals for the long haul. Another great tool.
All right. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how intrinsic motivation can develop. Intrinsic motivation is considered to be the strongest and most lasting motivator, and positive feedback can support or reinforce the internal feelings of satisfaction. In early childhood and adolescence period is particularly sensitive times in the development of the brain's motivation system. During early childhood, neural structures are constructed by experiences we have and the genes we are born with. Attachment figures shape motivation early in life. Responsive and supporting caregivers and a safe, predictable environment is essential for creating developmentally appropriate experiences. During the teen years, the brain's motivation system is influenced more by peers, exploration, and performance feedback. Teens usually demonstrate a stronger neural response to social acceptance and rejection. There is an increase in social understanding and sensitivity towards social rewards, and this can cause teens to take risks and also exercise independence, as we know. One interesting tidbit that I found was in teenagers, the anterior cingulate cortex, we'll call it the ACC, controls and evaluates social acceptance and exclusion. It plays an important role when it comes to making decisions. So research has shown that children who were constantly rejected, abused, or neglected displayed an overactive ACC. And this resulted in them becoming even more motivated by social feedback compared to the average teen. When we are able to support a healthy developmental process, the motivation system is established. When the motivational system is unstable, it results in excessive reward seeking, or it can result also in undue danger avoidance. This can lead to disorders such as ADHD, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and PTSD. So I want to hear from you guys. What sort of reduces your motivation? What have you noticed brings that motivation down in you or your children? You can put it in the chat. You can pop your microphones on if you have any thoughts. Leslie, being overly tired, definitely. When you're tired, you just don't have it in you to get things done. Luis and Maria, yep, that'll do it. Not getting enough sleep. I can definitely relate. So when it comes to things that can disrupt the motivation system, in everyone really, but once again, the more sensitive periods are early childhood, and then following that would be the teen years. Excessive stress in a chaotic and stressful environment, motivation systems can be directed by avoidance and lack of positive relationships. Children raised without a consistent, supported adult are less likely to expect a reward when they do something positive and more likely to identify experiences as threatening and respond to them as such. Motivation becomes attuned to impulse and self-protection. And excessive fear has been shown to have long-term effects for a child's health, learning, and social emotional well-being. Children can learn excessive or misguided fear from a primary caretaker, which may cause the child to lose interest in healthy exploration. So it's one thing to, of course, prompt your child to get away from the stove or another danger. But if a primary caretaker is projecting their unreasonable fears onto the child, that could really disrupt their motivation development. And we also want to think about mindset when it comes to skills and attributes. If skills or talents are thought of as something we either have or don't have, we call this a fixed mindset. Instead of capacities that can be developed through practice, this is a growth mindset. Children and adults are more likely to feel helpless, and this can certainly disrupt our motivation system. It is also important for adults to model and allow their children to see them working hard towards a specific goal. So, assuming basic needs are met, most young children are intrinsically motivated by exploration, active play, and achieving success with mastering a task. This kind of approach motivation is really important for learning and development because it leads to a heightened engagement with a task and eventually mastering that task, which is associated with personal pride and satisfaction. The experiences kids have during different stages of childhood have a great impact on the development of motivation. Infants learn through interaction with their parents and caregivers, and if they're able to provide responsive support, at first, infants develop basic preferences between pleasant and unpleasant experiences, and then they can later distinguish between situations that are less dangerous and those that are actual threats. We want to follow our child's lead. Notice what your child pays attention to and engage with them around those interests. Babies are naturally receptive to new objects and events. They also tend to look away from things that are very familiar. This is kind of known as the Goldilocks effect. Things are interesting when they're new, but not too unfamiliar. You want to help and encourage their curiosity, provide your kids with opportunities to interact with objects and activities, let them lead and learn. Play-based learning. So children of all ages engage in spontaneous play. Play allows our kids to learn from others. It requires active engagement and can strengthen social bonds and reduce stress. Play in itself is intrinsically motivated, and it's essentially the work of a child. You want to focus on making social interactions a priority in early childhood. There are many computer-based programs and apps that are geared towards children as young as 6 months old, but they cannot replace social interactions with peers and adults. A study has shown that babies learn better through face-to-face contact, and although children can learn through digital media, it cannot replace social interaction. In relation to that Goldilocks effects we were talking about, peak motivation occurs when you are right at the cusp of your current ability and working towards the next step. You want to challenge your child just enough. Effort is required to sustain motivation, although success has to be obtainable. Motivation could dwindle if the task is too easy, but also if it's too overwhelming. You think about a video game, how the levels increase in difficulty based on the individual's performance. We try to adapt that sort of thinking to the challenges we present to our children. We also want to think about providing children with some agency over the tasks that they need to do. They're more likely to use self-determination and remain engaged if we allow them to influence what we want them to do. Keep in mind that it's important to provide incentives only when necessary. When we praise kids for the grade they got or the medal they received, they may be motivated to achieve more rewards, but they may also be hesitant to try more challenging activities. Performance pressure rises as children move up in grades, and sometimes this can lead to depression, anxiety, decreased joy in learning, when they feel that they're working just for a reward. You're going to hear me mention that we want to praise the outcome, the process, rather than the outcome. That's really an important thing to develop the motivational system. And when it comes to teenagers, as we talked about, adolescence is a period where teens push boundaries and engage in risky behavior. And open communication, high parental support is linked with fewer behavioral issues, including trouble with the law and substance abuse. So once again, it's very important to reward the effort, praise kids for following through difficult assignments and sustaining that effort and trying new things that may not come easy. And also help them see the bigger picture. When kids are older and they understand delayed gratification, it helps remind them of their long-term goals. What are some things that you are currently doing to increase your child's intrinsic motivation? Are there any things that you guys want to change? Thinking about what some of the points we talked about. Well, I will share that with my daughter, I am really trying to provide more support and be more in touch with her teachers in order to work on her skills with some of her classes. If nobody else has any other comments, okay. I want to be more present with my kid. Yeah, it's definitely important to give them that one-on-one time and make them feel valued and understood. So when it comes to school and study habits, Andrea, I try to let my son free play and think for himself rather than me constantly bringing his toys to him so he can learn fine motor skills. Exactly. Yes, that's very important, especially when they are infants. Let them lead. They're gonna show you what they want to approach. They're gonna show you what they're interested in. So when it comes to kids who are a little bit older and they are in school, it's important to be involved, being available for questions and support, discussing their studies, engaging with your child shows your interest and shows them that school can be fun and it is important. Social reinforcements work well with younger kids. We're talking high fives and hugs and praise, as well as rewarding activities planned accordingly. So if you already planned to have a special family night, it's not a bad idea to try and motivate your child with that reward for getting something done that is important. With teenagers, it can be helpful to open up and share details of your own day and life experiences. That's more of a social reinforcement for the older kids. And we want to allow room for mistakes. Setbacks are normal. And sometimes the only way to learn how to prepare for school is finding out what happens when you are not. Get outside help if you need it. Hire a tutor, recruit an older student. This will probably increase the chances that your child will listen to what they have to say. And a lot of the time, most tutors or older students will charge a reasonable rate or do it to gain experience for later jobs and things like that. It's important to work with your teachers. The chances of success increase when both the school and home are in alignment. The teacher's probably going to have more insight on what your child may be struggling with, what their strong points are in the classroom, and how to motivate them. And also, don't be afraid to get support for yourself. I know that I have felt frustrated with myself when it comes to some of the schoolwork now that my daughter is getting older. Some of you may feel judged as a parent if your kid is not doing well. You can join a support group. You can think about starting one. It can be helpful to talk with a therapist, other parents and teachers, and try to navigate the school system. And take a step back, definitely, if you find yourself feeling angry or frustrated, very frustrated with your children. Andrea commented in the chat that the library also has free tutoring online or in person. And she's right. I have come across a flyer recently, and that's also a pretty good resource here in our community. When it comes to intrinsic motivation, find the fun, enjoy the task at hand. When an assignment is not all that interesting, being playful, using humor, letting kids explore their curiosity allows them to exercise that intrinsic motivation. And be careful with constantly using rewards to motivate your child. This can sometimes actually hinder their motivation. We probably have all been there. The child may adopt a bargaining attitude or decide that the task is not worth the reward. Using rewards constantly may also send the message that the work is only being done to receive a reward, when ideally children should be able to complete the work that they have to do based on their values and their long-term goals. We're also going to talk a little bit about how competence affects the motivation. When you are able to master a new skill, it can be very motivating. On the other hand, children may avoid activities that they don't feel confident in. Besides helping your child address skill gaps, learning disabilities, and attention issues, it's important to once again emphasize effort and strategy. Children can benefit from learning study strategies. For example, you might help them, coach them on working on a math test, studying for a math test by actively practicing problems rather than passively looking through notes. It can be discouraging for a child to hear you didn't follow the instructions correctly, you didn't meet the guidelines. Encourage your child to circle or underline key instructions and check off completed parts of their projects. This helps them see their progress, and also breaking down tasks into smaller steps helps visualize their advancement. You can also talk about and engage with them, recall moments when you guys have been struggling, but you worked hard and you were able to overcome the struggle and reach your goal. Autonomy. Sometimes kids feel unmotivated when they feel they have no choice with the task at hand. We cannot give children total freedom for obvious reasons, but we can cut down on some resistance by allowing some independence. This means offering choices. Try to limit the choices to 2 or 3 equal acceptable alternatives. Giving children some say in how they complete a task can increase their motivation. Explain to them, give them a rationale that makes sense. It's easier for kids to follow through with things when they understand why they have to do them. They might push back, why do I have to do algebra homework? Why do I have to learn this? And you can explain that it's a chance to practice important skills that you will use throughout their life. Getting work done more efficiently, for example, and working with others. These are all things that particular assignment can help them with, besides just the technical problems. And encourage problem solving. A lot of the time, kids will give you solutions that will work with them. You might have to be a little bit persistent and to get beyond their complaints, but a lot of the time, if you're able to talk things out, you can work out an appropriate solution for the problem. And connection. Relationships are a very important part of motivation. Kids and us too as adults want to do things that bring us closer to the people or groups that we care about. Sometimes kids just need to feel acknowledged and that you understand their reluctance or ill feelings towards a certain subject. It's important to have role models and social supports. The motivation journey doesn't have to be a singular mission. A role model can help your kid envision what they want to become. And being part of a great team or having an awesome teacher is motivating in itself. When you have reasonable expectations for kids, it's important to keep in mind that no one is 100% motivated with every task at all times. Children are no exception. They're not supposed to be performing at adult level productivity, and it takes practice and maturity to really hone in on that and extrinsic motivation. Be patient with them, and warmth and encouragement is always more motivating than criticism, of course. Some things like what we learned in the video, you can make things fun when it comes to motivating yourself by adding immediate incentives. You can make working out more fun by watching TV or listening to music. Find a fun alternative. So, for example, if you're working out, instead of trying to make instead of getting on the bike, you might prefer to work out by playing a sport with some of your friends. And notice the fun that already exists in what you need to do. In one study, gym users were asked to choose between exercises in the weight room. Some were instructed to choose the exercises that they enjoyed the most, and others to choose the exercises that were most useful. The people who chose the more enjoyable task were able to go longer and complete more sets and reps overall. So what does this mean for policies outside of your home, in school, in society? There are some important implications that we can derive from this research on motivation, which is actually pretty recent. Support early childhood programs with a focus on playful exploration, self-competence, and high teacher-to-child ratios and professional development. We don't want the people teaching our kids to get burned out. And as we have talked about, those connections and supportive relationships are very important for their motivation and how they're going to do later on in life. We want to hopefully think about reducing the emphasis on extrinsic rewards in the school system and direct the focus towards coaching and constructive feedback. Treatment to addiction should ideally be responding at the physiological level instead of policies based on punishment, simply due to the fact that relying on addictive substances occurs below the conscious level. Include motivation building programs for adults who have children. This could potentially improve completion of programs and enable caregivers to model and support motivation in systems in children. And when it comes to, for example, we do a lot of things with kids here, and you might also have been in touch with other programs and facilities and agencies outside of school. It's important for those type of agencies to think about replacing punitive approaches to program engagement with methods that reduce stress, provide feedback, and social support. Sometimes including in the program things that provide quick achievements could be more motivating for somebody to participate and become engaged and stay engaged. And we want to also include policies that facilitate rejoining after a lapse and makes retention more rewarding by strengthening a growth mindset. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for letting me share what I learned. And we're gonna do a raffle now. And I also wanted to show you guys, if you wanted to come to the Resource Center, for those of you that have attended our workshop here today, we can give you one of these, oh, you can't see it too well. It's a chart chart, and my camera, due to the background, is not showing too well. But we can give you one for each of your children. It can help you hopefully stay on track with some of their chores and assignments that they need to keep track of. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. Any comments, you can also put it in the chat. or just make sure you have signed in so that we can get the raffle going.
I do have the raffle pulled up. So far, I have 5. There's one that says iPhone. I'm not sure who that is.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
There we
Fine.
go.
It's Cindy. She just put her name in there. Perfect.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure that you got entered. All right. I can't share my screen, but I'm gonna spin the wheel right now. 2, 4, 6. We got 6 of you today. Let's see who our lucky gas card winner is. It is Leslie.
Nice.
So Leslie, you'll need to stop by
Leslie-
the Family Resource Center and pick up your $25 gift card. And the second $25 gift card goes to Leticia. So
Awesome.
this machine likes the L's tonight.
Yeah. Congratulations, you guys. Come by the resource center and we'll get you your gas card. Leticia, pase por la oficina para poder darle su tarjeta de gas.
Thank you, Claudia.
And I want to thank
All
everybody
right.
for coming. And in the chat, I just dropped, if you have a 0 to 5, we are starting Help Me Grow. If you're off of work and you're here, if you're able to make it, we're doing it during Children's Circle on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. for the next 6 weeks. Myself and Maria will be teaching the Help Me Grow. And each week you come to that, you get a free gift for you and your child. And if you attend all 6, you get a $50 gas card at the end of the 6 weeks. So we'd love for you guys to come and do that. And also the charts that Claudia was showing, those are also, you get one for every one of your children. So if you've got 3 kids at home, come in. We've got 6 different colors to choose from. You can pick one up for each of your children. And we'll have those here for you until we run out. We should have enough unless you guys all have more than 6 kids each. So we do have enough. So if you would like to come and pick those up, our hours are Monday through Friday from 9 to 4:30. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.